everyone. So, welcome to my latest transition update and ranting video. With me today is the lovely Amanda Stein, as always. She has a very unique perspective on my transition, given that she's the one outside of me living through it most closely. And we're going to get into that a little bit today.
Okay.
A little bit. We'll see. So this month has been kind of crazy. I've been doing all the financial side of things, legal transition-wise. That's been super fun. Especially the part where you have to call each individual card and like dead name yourself for a solid 2.5 minutes before you get to somebody who like actually knows how to deal with it. I actually ended up having to open up a couple of tickets with a couple of these places because they literally didn't know how to handle me, which is super frustrating because there's a few million of us out there, and like with name changes in particular, it's like, okay, people get married all the time. It's the same process.
I think at minimum that would be there. It's ridiculous.
It's so insane, and just like, it's painful because like, you know, they'll be sirring you and mistering you the entire time, and then like the next thing you know, they're like, oh, I get it now. And I'm like, yeah, thank you. You know, like, they don't know they're doing anything wrong, and I get it. Like, I never got the sense that they were trying to hurt me, but more often than not, I got the sense that they didn't know how to help me. And I'm like, I just need a computer that can accept this form, because there's no reason I should ever have to interact with a human on this one.
Yeah.
But that's the way it works. But the important piece of news here is that every single card in my wallet at this point has my correct name on it, which is so awesome because I can like pay for stuff now without having to think about it. Like, I don't have to present an ID that's different from my payment. Like, it sounds really basic, but that's
a big deal.
No, it is. And like, honestly, this is where we come into this whole like trans rights or human rights thing, because that's a thing that every other human takes for granted, is that their name matches everywhere.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, the big update this month is not quite complete. Last month I was having a lot of trouble with my birth certificate. My application had initially gotten rejected to update my gender marker on my birth certificate, but they eventually realized that they forgot that I sent the letter, and that was fine until I actually got the birth certificate in the mail, and it said, mother's maiden name, my dead name. So for a good couple of weeks, I was legally my own mother.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, I don't even know. Like, when I called them to explain like what happened, they were like, I don't even understand how I did this. I'm like, yeah, I feel the same way. Like, what happened? And this was, you may remember, this was the one that required all these extra steps. Like, their requirements are higher than the federal government, and they're the ones messing up my birth certificate. And I'm like, how? You have all these extra things you require. You'd think you could like basically execute your primary function as a record keeper? Like, oh, that was so frustrating because like I eventually got it back from them, and like I also pointed out to them that the street address doesn't exist in the town that they have on there, and they're like, oh yeah, on the original it doesn't say that. I'm like, then what did you do? But they sent it back to me, and now I still have to send it back to them because they updated the town but not the zip code, and it doesn't match. And I'm like,
can't get the details right.
No, like, it's fine because it says Mia Claire, last name, female, and that's great, but I'm my own mother. Like, I don't understand. It lists 2 boy names as mother and father, and I'm like,
And not in a progressive way.
No, not at all. It was like, how does this even make sense? You know, the only way that I could make any sense of it at all is that my mother was 31 when she had me, and I'm 29 now. So obviously what happened is that 2 years from now, I will obtain a uterus, go back in time, then seduce my own father, give birth to my actual self as a like cis female, and that's how this will work. And of course, the only like problem in the timeline will be that that street is now located in that town.
It's definitely not a clerical error.
This is the most logical explanation.
It's the only option.
Oh, I was so glad I had both my therapists that week because I've been compared to my mother before, but never legally actually my own mother. That was new. I feel like that's kind of a novel experience. I don't think many people have lived through that.
No, just a little bit. A little bit weird.
So it's not quite done yet, but we're almost there. I'm gonna submit it again, and we're gonna get that zip code worked out because I figured it's just gonna be so much easier to fix all of this now, get it all done, and I'm still on track for the end of the year, having my legal transition completely done. The birth certificate is the last thing that will be done, which is extremely ironic because it was the first document that was ever wrong about me, but here we are. But yeah, I got my passport in, so yeah, I'm basically done except for one zip code, so it's 95% complete on the birth certificate. So that's something. So the next thing that happened was that my bank, they updated my name in the system. You were with me both times we went there, and they updated my name. They were super nice, and like I ordered new checks because like it's a new, like the bank got bought out, so I was like, okay, I need a check with the correct bank name, my correct name, and everything, and the correct address and everything. That'll be super nice. I rarely use checks. I've used one maybe in the last like 3 years, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I want you to print a thing with my name on it. And that was like, I ordered the checks and everything was fine, and then I also forgot to mention, hey, I also need a debit card that's going to have my correct name on it. I kind of hoped that would just be triggered automatically.
I think that would be obvious.
Right, but that didn't happen, and like a month went by, and I was like, where's my stuff? And we went back, and they were like, oh yeah, no, it says you didn't like order this, and it says you've already got your new debit card. I'm like, well, I don't, because I'm here. I wouldn't be here at 8 in the morning on a Saturday. Again, they were super nice. It's just like, hey, can you do your job?
Yeah.
That would be great. And like, they were also like really supportive. Like, they went out of their way to be like, I understand why this is painful for you, and I'm so sorry, and we need to take care of this. And that was great.
You're going through a lot right now.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, we don't want to be the problem. I'm like, yeah, because I can go literally to any other bank. By the time I've legally changed my name and gone through all this crazy stuff, do you really think it's that hard for me to find a new checking account?
No.
Like,
the second woman was so upset on your behalf.
Oh, she was so angry, and she gave me her card and everything, and was like, if you don't have this in 2 weeks, I want you to contact me, and if you do get it in 2 weeks, contact me anyway. And then she went on vacation for 2 weeks, and I was like, all right, well, I guess you'll find out when you get back.
Yeah.
But the point is, I got everything, and that's all done. So that's great. It's just the birth certificate. And the next step that I'm dealing with this week is my colleges. I actually had to go to my storage unit today because weirdly I don't keep my student ID with the wrong name and wrong gender and wrong appearance from 10 years ago on my person at all times. Nor do I have memorized all of my student ID numbers, which is apparently required to update your name with the college. And I'm like, oh, come, I graduated. I don't have to deal with this, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I'm like, I know they could look it up, but I'd much rather have all my stuff together and just be like, do your job.
Yeah.
Like, that would be great. I want to be the one that's most together in the room. And then complain about it on this channel.
Of course.
Yep. For me, it's less of an issue of my diplomas, because I would love to have them be reissued with the correct name and everything. That's not a have to though. For me, it's really about like when I change jobs, like having someone call my colleges to verify that I actually went there and not getting no and then immediately tossing out my application. Like it's a problem that I have to deal with that. The next thing I want to talk about is periods. Now, obviously I was born without a uterus, at least to the best of my knowledge. And so here's the thing. When you do injections, you have a cycle. And as I've mentioned in previous videos on this subject, my body has fully figured out, especially since adding progesterone, that I'm supposed to have something around a 28-day cycle. But I also have the ups and downs of the estrogen along the road, because every 2 weeks I do a shot and I get a huge bump, and then it tapers back down for the next week, and then I feel like crap for a week. But yeah, so at the tail end of this 28-day cycle, which is very normal, I get cramps, which is super kind of confusing for a lot of people, because like they don't understand that like muscles other than the uterus can cramp, and like it's all the same chemical process, like the same chemical triggers. So I get intestinal cramping, and I get period poops, and basically everything but the bleeding. And it's really unpleasant. You know, I get it, you know, I'm another woman complaining about her period, but like, it's not fun. Especially for those around me Because the first sign that this is really happening is that I kind of lose my mind and get really snappy and everything. It's not super fun. You're being very quiet.
I don't know how much you want me to say. Right now it just sounds like cutesy, sitcom, PMS, snappy, and that's not it, so I don't know what you want.
Yeah, it's really bad though. Like, to the point where we were in session with my gender therapist, and I was talking about how hard of a time I was having with it, how snappy I had been, and
snappy being a very mild
cutesy word for what actually happens.
Yeah.
And Amanda very delicately brought up, hey, so maybe you should talk to your doctor about trying to normalize these levels a little bit. And to the shock of everyone in the room, including my gender therapist, I was like, yeah, I've been kind of thinking that. I've got a couple of ideas for how I want to do that. Stuff that I've read from other people going through the same kinds of things. And
to be super clear, what I actually said was the whole, I don't want you to change anything, we need to work on coping or figuring out how to work this out. I was like, please don't change it. Then you're like, yeah, so about changing it.
You know, it's hard because there's this combination of your emotions being so much closer to the surface and just not being used to it, because every other woman my age has a good 17 years of additional practice with this, and that's part of it. But when we were talking about some of my symptoms with my gender therapist, she was saying, listen, this is not normal for trans women, this is not normal for cis women. If you were a cis woman, we would tell you to talk to your doctor as well.
And honestly, cis women are given 2 months to figure it out. They don't, it's not,
no,
people are like, oh, you have 10 years.
No,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
It's literally
I'm talking about it in terms of sheer practice of not exploding at people.
Yeah.
You
kind of use it as don't get on to me, I'm allowed to say whatever because I haven't had experience. And
I'm sure I did.
I'm like, well, people would yell at a 13-year-old for doing this to me.
Pity me! Pity me! Yeah. Well, the point is that I am willing to do what it takes to smooth things out. I cry every time. Well, I cry many of the times that I attack you. I don't want to hurt you. And when I brought this up to our roommate, I was like, yeah, we're thinking of tweaking my hormones. She was like, oh, thank God. Apparently, I've been kind of a storm for those around me.
Yeah.
It's not good. And just at minimum, the cramping is literally severe enough that I had to curl up in bed for a good hour when it was happening last week. I was just nope, this is what I'm doing for the night. I'm incapacitated. I'm not doing anything. Yeah. It's unpleasant. And I would really like to not go through that. Obviously, I'm very happy with my results. I want things to be going well, but at the end of the day, I can't destroy everyone around me in the process because then I'll be alone, which is not the goal of this at all. So I brought these concerns up with my endocrinologist, and they were not as receptive as I would have liked. This particular doctor has something of a reputation for this particular problem of not taking emotional considerations very seriously.
She wouldn't even let you explain what was happening.
No, she never even was interested to hear it, The only reason she wasn't screaming at me was because, we threw my gender therapist under the bus and said, oh, this was all her idea. Yeah. Instead of it being, my idea gleaned from several other people on the internet going to their doctors and talking about their experiences, which I'm not making this stuff up, Yeah, so in summary, I am on the market for a new doctor, but I think I did it in a fairly smart way. I'm retaining my current appointment with my current endocrinologist until I actually meet with this other doctor. I want to get a feel for them. Sometimes the lead time on doctors who deal with trans patients is really long. It was 3 months to get in to see this nurse practitioner, and it can take 6 months with some doctors and stuff, which to a person who wants to get started on hormones is a very, very dangerous and long time. Which is why I got with this doctor in the first place, because they were the shortest of the wait times that were available to me. So I was like, get me hormones now. And that was more of a sledgehammer, and now I'm needing kind of some finesse in this process. So I talked to the people in my support group, and one of them recommended this particular doctor, and their wait time was about 2 weeks. And I was like, perfect, I can see you before I even have the chance to go back to the other doctor, and we're going to figure it out. So I'm really curious to see how that goes. Worst case, I've got 2 other endocrinologists lined up that I know I can see. One of them is definitely covered by my insurance, so that's good. It's a little scary to me to change up everything, because as crazy as this obviously is, like, I'm not used to it, but it is what I've been doing for the past 6 months.
Yeah.
More or less.
No, it makes sense to be nervous.
But at the end of the day, like, I was scared to bring up my concerns with this doctor, and they didn't even listen.
No.
So that's not going to work for me in terms of a doctor-patient relationship anyway. I mean, that's it. You know, I need to see another doctor. It's kind of annoying too, because as a trans person, you tend to often feel like you're kind of like 6 different doctors' personal science projects. Like, they're all on like a team project with you, and like poking and prodding, and you know. But you know, at the end of the day, I just need to feel right with myself and not attack my partner or my roommates or everyone around me, and feel comfortable and safe. And I don't with this doctor, and obviously you don't with me every 28 days or so. So we're gonna have to work on that.
Not even that, but like...
Yeah, it's really every 2 weeks. Like, the way you put it is...
Every other week.
Yeah, the way you put it is you can't keep losing your mind every 2 weeks, half your life. Like, that's basically what it is.
You're miserable.
I'm either okay or I'm miserable. That's it, you know?
No.
With like 1 or 2 days in between where I'm like, ah. And then the day after I'm like, ah. And then the day after I'm like, hi. It's like, no, see, this is a lot. And it's a thing with the injections in particular that it's very up and down. But I've heard weekly with lower dose can be a better option. I've heard that some people do bi-weekly and supplement with oral estradiol, so that they're like, their low is never, yeah, it's like a higher low basically. I don't know, and that's the other thing, like, I don't know exactly what's happening at that point in my cycle. Like, I don't know what my levels are right before I do my shot, because, that's what I'd like to get tested with this other doctor, is to see like, hey, what's going on here? Is my T too high? Is my E too low? Is it both? What's going on? Like, what is this? And the other endocrinologist was willing to test that, but like only after I argued with her for a solid 10 minutes. Like, just, I don't know. I don't think
I'm not going to analyze the numbers with you.
No, exactly. And when she's one of those very by the numbers type of person, and I'd be fine with that if like their numbers were correct, because like she'll just decide that my numbers aren't in range when I've got access to the same...
Or that they are.
Yeah, or that they are when they're not. Like, she literally did not tell me that my T was outside the female range the last time I saw her. And I was like... And then denied it when I showed it to her. I was like, here's the test result. This is the female range. This is what I had. Oh, okay. Like... No comment on that? That's not okay. Like... I don't know. So, obviously I've got some things to work out with that. I'm nervous, I'm excited, I'm willing to try something else, you know, let's get somewhere with this so that I don't hurt you every 2 weeks. That would be nice, because I like you.
Yes, I like you too.
I like you a lot. This week. Next week, on the other hand.
Right. Next Wednesday you'll not feel the same.
Oh, yeah. But that should be the last crazy week, so hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah.
So, this week I also have my 5th session of laser. Next month will be the 6th session, and that is the final one that I have paid for.
Yeah.
I also, in the last month, had a lot of my hairs fall out, which is what normally happens when you do laser, but for some reason it like was a huge batch this time, and like I no longer have a shadow on my upper lip or any of that, which is fantastic because it means I can go outside without makeup on and not like look like I just shaved or like, you know, that whole look.
It's been a big relief.
It's been so nice. Like I used my ID, like I got ID'd without any makeup on and there was no problem whatsoever. There's still some hair like right up by my nostrils and right on my lip, on the lower lip here, that I'm really hoping, right, it's so minimal but it's there and it's like all that's left now.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that sessions 5 and 6 will kick those away. I still have like 1 or 2 hairs down here that just keep coming up every like 3 weeks. I'm like, but whatever survives that is going to get electrolysis, because I figure if I don't get it within 6 sessions of laser, there's not really much of a point in going back and continuing to do that when we know it doesn't work.
Yeah, no.
Any of the 6 times. So I don't see a point in going past that. Plus, I'd have to pay full price. I got a Groupon for the first 6, and I don't feel like paying for that. Like, if I'm going to pay full price for something, it may as well be electrolysis, which we know for a fact works.
Yeah, exactly.
So
That makes sense.
yeah, I'd like to be done. Plus, I know I'm going to have a lot of, like, the white hairs left, and I don't want, like, 10 white hairs over here and, like, no dark hair, because that'll look even weirder in some way. Like, I don't know. I just... The point is, I'd like to get to a point where I no longer have to shave ever on my face.
It's understandable.
Like, I think that's not hard to understand for trans women, and I feel like a lot of cis women can relate to that as well, because cis women do get facial hair. It's a thing. But in my case in particular, it's just going to be a source of intense dysphoria for me, and that's why I chose to focus on this first. Like, I'm one of those people that could easily be talked into doing laser over their entire, like, lower body,
Yeah.
like, no problem, but I'm like, money.
Yeah.
Like, let's prioritize the things that cause me dysphoria first.
Yeah.
That's basically where I landed with that. And less of a transition news kind of thing, I'm doing a little girl science, or at least science of hair removal. I had an epilator before, and when I was running on testosterone, I really wasn't impressed with the results, and I was, like, in a fair amount of pain from using it. It felt more like it was just tearing the hair at the surface rather than actually pulling it out. But I gave it another honest try. I went full stereotype. I lit a candle, went into the bathtub, and did an epilator on one leg and shaved the other leg. And for a solid, like, 5 days, there was not a hair to be found on the epilated leg, and, like, hair coming back, visible, feelable on the other leg. So apparently that does work a little bit. That experiment is ongoing, so I won't exactly give a full endorsement at this point. But, you know, like, giving my skin the time to soak, being on HRT, having thinner hair, having thinner skin, softer skin, definitely has seemed to help with that. I remember when I was pre-hormones that I was so frustrated with body hair and feeling like it was completely out of my control and everything. So the hormones really do help if that's something that you want to do. I don't really know what I'm trying to say here. I guess I'm trying to talk to my past self and be like, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. And the last thing, as always, that I want to talk about is surgery. And I do mean that in every sense of the word. It is the last thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I am inching closer, by which I mean a person in my support group sent me a link to a person they are going to have a consultation with, and therefore I have spent all of 10 seconds on that person's page, and that is the amount of research that I have done.
It's scary.
It's really scary, you know, like, I've come to the point, and I've talked about this last month, where I accept that I do need to try to do this, at least do the consultation, see what's out there, see what my options are, and I want to try. But here's the thing, you don't really get to try this. It's kind of a one-shot deal, and you know, I need to do proper research and actually care about this. It's not like laser where I'm like, I can go pretty much anywhere, and if it doesn't work out, I'll go somewhere else. Like, no, you have to get this right the first time, because, like, if you don't, sorry, that's your life now.
No,
like,
exactly.
And it's hard because, like, there's this hurdle for me of, like, everything more or less works today, and I'm gonna roll the dice, and I feel slightly guilty about that, and hypocritical, because I'm sitting there like, you know, I will scream blue in the face that people do not need surgery to complete to their transition, but for me it's a necessary step. And I feel hypocritical about that because I'm like, no, you don't need this, I do, I'm special. That's not what I mean. Like, I don't want to do this either, you know? But I've got 29 years of experience telling me that this situation is not okay for me.
I'm not happy.
Like, no, I've never been happy with that situation, and it's not getting better, and this really feels like the only option that I have to actually try to get better with that. And I had the opportunity to speak to another woman who had been through this. I'm obviously not going to go into detail on that because it's a private discussion. But I just got the sense that she really understood what I was dealing with, and had, in that way that like, I've been through this too kind of thing. And maybe I'm reading that into it because maybe that's what I wanted to get from that. But you were with me when this was happening, and I feel like you got a similar sense, you know,
Yeah,
like...
she seemed very content.
Exactly. She just seemed so at peace with herself, and in a way that, like, that is what I'm wanting. Like, that conflict that I see in myself all the time in the mirror or in my bathtub when I'm epilating, was just not there. It was just peaceful, and she seemed really happy and quiet and just calm. And like, it went beyond personality. Like, it wasn't just that this person was a calm person, because I've known other calm trans people, and this was just different.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but that is the kind of serenity that I'm hoping to find in my own life. And I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to actually have this conversation, because I feel like all I really needed to hear was that it's going to be okay and it's going to be worth it. And that is exactly what this person told me, and I believe them because I got the sense from them that they really understood what I was dealing with. You know, so for all my fears and all the actual work that it's going to take for me to actually get to do this final step for me, I think it's important, I think it's necessary, and I think it might be worth it. And at minimum, I have to try. And yeah, it's gonna really suck, especially for you. Yeah, I'm the one that's gonna live through it, but I'm the one that's gonna be stuck in bed for 3 months, and you're gonna be the one running around. So
I kind of can't handle a cold normally.
no, I am such a baby when it comes to colds. Like, I'm just like, I'm sick, I don't want to do anything, and you're like, oh, go to hell. But yeah. I'm like equal parts excited for it and totally just sheer terror.
Yeah.
I don't know what else there is to say at this point. Like, I just need to actually do the work, and I feel like once I'm through a lot of this balancing my hormones and mostly through my legal transition, which is very, very nearly complete, and we are going to celebrate that day, and that's going to be exciting. Once that is all squared away, I feel like I will have the actual energy to deal with this. And I know that I'm delaying myself with this because there's at least a year's lead time to actually get to have this surgery performed on me. But like, the longer I wait, the longer that is away. But like, I have to be ready. I have to feel comfortable with the process. I have to be present for it. I don't want to rush through it because I know that that's what I'll tend to do with this kind of thing. And I don't want to do that. The last consideration that I have in terms of surgery is that my dentist wants to remove my wisdom teeth. I've been told that they will have to be taken out at some point in my life. Before, this person was more like, yeah, you need to like do this like soon. But it's also the first time I've met with this dentist, so I'm like, I don't really know if I trust you yet. We'll see. But yeah, I'm not really looking forward to that. And my concern is that I don't want to be recovering from one surgery and have that interfere with recovery from another surgery or the actual surgery itself. And I'm like, ooh, so I need to actually think about this. I'm not really sure what to do. And the other consideration is that I do actually have a cavity on one of my wisdom teeth. And if I'm basically fighting an infection and then like going under for surgery and or recovery, that's gonna get so much worse, and then it might turn a thing that was benign under normal circumstances into a thing that's like really dangerous for me and not okay. And I'm like, ooh, I need to like actually think about this. And given that I have at least a year's lead time to this, I'm like, maybe I should just jump on this and get these out, and like, it'll kind of be like practice for surgery if I get oral surgery, and like...
Yeah, it does give you a chance to practice anesthesia and everything.
Exactly, like, see how I react to it and everything. Because, like, I don't do anything. Like, I don't know. But, like, yeah, I don't know. I have to think about that a little bit. We'll see. This video is very long. And I'm going to cut it off now. Is there any other transition-related things you want to talk
I
about?
don't think so.
Okay. All right. So, in that case, this is the last time I'm going to talk about it for a month, right? As far as this channel's concerned.
We'll see, yeah.
With you, it's every 5 minutes, but you know, for them, I've restricted it down to a month. You're welcome.
Yeah, that is a good point. It's very different.
Right? Your experience is so vastly different. Alright, so that is all for this week. I will be back again next week with a non-translated video that I hope you will find interesting. Until then,
Stay curious.